Yoseo, all my beautiful people, how are you doing today? And welcome to the alternate point of view. My name is Tracy Lee. Welcome if you are new. Welcome if you are my OGs and been hanging with me since the beginning. I greatly appreciate you all. So today, of course, we are recapping another day of testimony in the Samantha Wall trial that has already happened. But I want to go over this testimony bit by bit because I want to catch some things that were opportunities for the defense and also holes that we could have filled, possibly the prosecution. I'm hoping to catch some things that, possibly would thread some of these pieces together. There's pieces to this puzzle that are missing. There's a narrative that has been written and drawn out for the public to believe, especially the Wall family. And I would really, really, really like for some light to be shed on this case. So I feel like her attacker is still out there, and I want to find that person, whether it be Jeffrey Herbstman. Obviously, Michael is not the attacker. He was nowhere near her residence when all of this motion was going off in her house, according to the ADT system that they're going off of. And there's no way he's the Flash and could do it at 4:20 a.m. And there's no way, if he's such a thief as they present him to be, that he would have gone into her home and struggled with her and went through all of that trouble and left with nothing, especially as we've seen in all the evidence photos and other videos. There was a very expensive Cannondale bike. If he's a car thief, he left her car. Her keys were sitting right there. And her laptop was sitting there, her phone. There's so many items that were just left behind that make zero sense, that if you're a thief and you're taking glasses, Cartier glasses, to the pawn shop to get money off of, you would have taken these other items from this person's home to get money off of. I mean, especially that bicycle. I'm just saying. I mean, I know because my brother had a Cannondale and someone sold that bike at a pawn shop, and his bike cost like, I can't remember how many thousands of dollars. And he finally, years later, that bike was found, oddly enough, at a pawn shop. So I'm just saying, like, if you're a thief and you're going to steal something of value, that's pretty high of value, especially her car that is just sitting there. Her keys are just sitting there. So that was a missed opportunity, I do believe, for the defense to call out. So today we are going to listen to the nosy neighbors. I have many questions about the neighbors. We are going to hear them again. I know we've been through this before, but the first time we went through it, we were watching this as it was happening. So I want to go back and listen and pay more attention to the testimony. And I want everyone to pay attention, of course, to the body language of all of these witnesses, because as I noticed in the last video that I did, the evidence technician tended to look a lot at the prosecutor when the defense attorney, Brian Brown, was questioning her, especially regarding her verbiage when she said there was a struggle in the living room. And when he asked her about that, she wanted to kind of backpedal on what she said, but because she had already used that verbiage, she couldn't do it. And she kind of painted herself in a corner, which is what I always say about doing an interview or an interrogation. That is what you want to do when you do a proper interview and interrogation, is you want to have that person painted into a corner. You want to build a rapport with that person. You want to ask them questions that you already know to be true, that they already know to be true. You want to set a baseline. That's kind of in every proper interview and interrogation. That's what you want to do, because you want to get them comfortable answering your questions. You want to get them comfortable getting to know you, know them. Even if, you're like, you're just shooting the breeze, you're talking about football, you're talking about music, you're talking about whatever you can find to interest them, and you just kind of shoot the breeze a little bit, and you just get them painted in a corner so that they know that you already know the answers to the questions before you ask. They don't really know that you know the answers, but you know the answers. And that's kind of the whole point of an interview and interrogation, is you already know the answers. Okay. So this is kind of like what's happening right now is we're going back in time. We already know the answers to the questions, right? But there's a lot of questions that haven't been answered. So there's a lot of questions that haven't even been asked. And that's what we want to do. We want to ask these questions that the jury didn't think to ask, that the defense didn't think to ask, that the prosecutors didn't care to ask. So let's dig into these particular questions. That's what I want to do. I want to go back through, and I also want to point out, you guys, that the guy who actually found her, the one that we're about to look at, this is Kevin Mull. He wasn't on the stand near as long as his wife, who didn't.
Good morning, sir. Could you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Yes, Kevin Mull, Kevinmull.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sir, could you please tell the jury about the neighborhood you live in?
Yes, it's called Lafayette Park. It is a group of townhomes, about 20 buildings that are oriented in a configuration to create a neighborhood.
And that particular neighborhood, is that in the city of Detroit, the county of Wayne?
It is correct.
And how long have you lived in that neighborhood?
I have been there about 4 years.
And I want to take you back to the early morning hours of October 21st of 2023. Does that day have some significance to you?
It does, yes.
What were you doing when you woke up that morning?
My wife and I were dog sitting for a friend, so we had a dog in the house, and the dog woke me up to go outside, so I was in the process of taking the dog outside.
Okay. And did you take the dog outside?
I did, yes.
And approximately what time did you take the dog outside?
About 6:20 a.m.
And when you took the dog outside, did anything come to your attention at some point?
Yes, as I went out into the little park that the meadow that's between my building and the building across, where normally we would walk the dog, I noticed something on the sidewalk at the building directly across from my unit.
And can you describe what you saw on the sidewalk?
Yes, I saw an object there. It was still dark out and was rainy and misty, and I couldn't tell what it was. So as I made my way across the meadow, I eventually realized that it was a person that was lying on the sidewalk.
Okay. And can you describe that person's condition?
Yes, the person was laying on the sidewalk with their back towards me, and in what I would describe as a fetal position. And I noticed that right away that the person did not have any shoes on, which obviously was unusual for that location and the temperature and so forth.
Okay. Did you notice anything else about this person's condition?
Yes, obviously the person was not moving, so I called out, and as I got closer and heard no response, and it was very clear that that person was in distress based on the lack of shoes and the position of the body and the state of the clothing.
Okay. Did you see the person moving at all?
No movement.
Did you see any evidence of injury that you observed?
There was not immediate evidence of injury, but because the person was unresponsive, obviously I was very concerned. So I saw a spot on the body where on the person's back there was some exposed skin. The skin was blue, the feet were blue. I touched that part of the body to try to get some kind of reaction. I immediately could tell how cold the body was.
And was there any reaction when you touched the body?
No reaction.
At the time that you saw the body, were you aware of who this person was?
I was not. I based on the condition, I immediately returned to my home and put the dog in the house and called for my wife to call 911. In what she did when we returned, it was my wife that recognized her. I did not know her.
And what is your wife's name, sir?
Jessica Robinson.
And can you explain to the jury where the body was positioned relative to the closest building?
Yes. So the way the buildings are configured, there are 2 units side by side with 2 doors next to each other to enter the units, and there's a sidewalk approaching the unit. And she was laying more than halfway up the sidewalk, approaching those 2 doors.
And the night of October 21st, that night, did you stay at home that night in Lafayette Park?
I did, yes.
Did you hear anything that night?
I did not.
Did you see anything out of the ordinary that night?
I did not.
And your particular home, you said, was directly across from the building where you found the body?
Correct.
Did you have any camera on your home?
We have a ring, but it's not facing that direction. It's facing perpendicular, so it does not face that direction.
And when you touched the body, did you get any blood on you?
I did not.
Would you have had any reason to have your elbows or your back come into contact with the body?
I did not. I was at a distance and stretched out, and touched only the spot that the exposed skin had.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Now, you stated that it was a distance when you first observed an object, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it wasn't until you got closer that you were able to ascertain that this was the actual body, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it was not apparent to you at first that there was blood around this object, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you indicated it was dark outside, correct?
It was still dark that morning, yes.
Okay. Now, what did you say when you approached this body?
I don't know the exact words, but something like, hello, excuse me, are you okay? Something along those lines.
Okay. And did you yell it? Did you say it in the same audible level as you're speaking right now?
Probably a little louder too. My impression was the person was sleeping, so it was loud enough to that it would wake somebody up if they were sleeping.
Okay. And approximately how far were you away from the body when you made the statement?
10 feet.
10 feet. And when you didn't get a response, you approached closer?
I approached closer, yes.
Okay. And you indicated that you touched an exposed area of the skin, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that would be her back area, correct?
Correct.
And that was closest to you upon your approach, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And were you checking for a pulse or just a reaction?
I was checking for a reaction.
And it'd be fair to say that you did not check for a pulse, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't check her neck area for a pulse, correct?
I did not.
Okay. Would it be fair if you had checked her pulse from her neck, you would have to reach down over her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you would have to get closer to her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it's a possibility if you had checked her neck, then possibly your elbow would have came in contact with possibly her hair or something.
Objection calls for speculation.
Okay.
You don't have to answer.
Now, you indicated that after touching her, you didn't get a response, correct?
Correct.
You then went home to your wife, correct?
Yes.
And your wife called 911.
Yes.
And while on the phone with 911, they instructed you to provide or attempt to provide CPR, correct?
That's correct.
And you refused to do so, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated her skin was cold to the touch, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, approximately how far is your apartment away from her apartment?
50 yards.
50 yards? Okay. On any given night, can you hear what's going on in her apartment from your apartment?
Not if doors are closed.
And was her door closed that night?
Yes.
And you indicated that have you ever seen her before in this complex?
In passing, but never conversation or direct communication.
Okay. And when you saw her, was she always alone? Was she with an individual?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? And you indicated that your wife knew her. Did you know her well, from your understanding?
Fairly well.
Fairly well? Now, you didn't submit your clothing to the police, correct?
No.
Okay, so you don't know definitively whether or not blood could have gotten from onto your clothes, correct?
I'm certain it did not.
Okay, but you didn't analyze it yourself, correct?
Correct.
Okay, nor did you send it to the police, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
No, no, thank you.
Any questions from the jurors? I don't see any hands from the jurors. Okay. Thank you, sir, for your, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, write down on one of those sheets of paper in your binder. Deputy, if you could please take the note from the juror when it's ready. Counsel, please. So we can go to those, right? Sir, what was your reason for not wanting to do CPR?
It was very clear to me that she was deceased.
Any other questions based on that?
No, no.
No questions.
Any other questions from the jury? I don't see any hands. Thank you, sir. You can step down. Call the deputy back.
Okay. So as we can see, this guy was the one who actually found her. Like, he is the one who found her. You would think that the prosecution would have a lot more questions to ask, but they minimized what he did, what he found. They didn't even ask a lot of questions. They literally just brushed over this guy. His wife is going to get on the stand and be on the stand way longer than him. He was on the stand less than 10 minutes. Okay. Here are my takeaways from this. And these are some misses from Brian. These are some misses from, from everyone, actually. So it's dark outside. He did not see the blood. Okay. If he couldn't see the blood because it was dark, how could he tell she was blue? That's something I want to know. How did he see that she was blue if it was dark, if he couldn't see blood? Also, what kind of dog? Was it a big dog? Was it a little dog? Was it a hairy dog? Was it a short-haired dog? Was it was it a carrying around dog? Was it a freaking Great Dane? What kind of freaking dog was it? Did the dog step in the blood? This scene was very, very bloody. And in order for him to go up and touch her back, he had to walk on the sidewalk that her back was facing him. Okay. There's no way he didn't walk somewhere in the blood or near the blood or get somewhere where there's blood, because he couldn't even see the blood. It was dark. So that is what I am wanting to know. Why didn't they ask, if you are so sure that you just reached your arm out like this, like, how did you do that? How did you, and where's the dog the whole time that you're doing this? Where is the dog? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. I'm not going to give up on this dog situation because the dog part is driving me insane. And the fact that no one asked about the damn dog makes me nuts. Okay. Because somehow, some way, this dog is in, like, there's something, the dog is somewhere, and you can't tell me that you didn't get a drop on you. He's certain. I'm certain I didn't get any blood on me. How are you so certain? Because you guys had plenty of time before you called 911 and before they got there to get yourself cleaned up, because you didn't call 911. You didn't pick up the phone and call anybody. You had your wife do it. You went all the way back to the house and had your wife do it. And we're going to get to that because I find this very, very strange that the wife is the one who calls 911 and they keep her on the stand forever because I guess she is some type of like homeowners lady or something. I'm not really sure what she is, but she's on the stand for a good bit. So we're going to look at her. And watch her testimony because they ask her a lot more questions than they asked him. And she's not even the one who found the body.
One, he was early. And so we were deciding who was going to go let her out, and he said, I'll go do it. So he got up, dressed, took the dog outside.
What happened when you
Okay. So before she starts talking, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, this is the wife of the guy who found the body. Okay. You're going to know who wears the pants in this family.
woke up on the morning of October 21st of 2023?
I can. So we were dog sitting for a friend, and our dog was downstairs, and she was getting whiny. It was early. And so we were deciding who was going to go let her out, and he said, I'll go do it. So he got up, got dressed, took the dog outside, and it was a number of minutes. He came back in, and he said, hey, Jessica, there's a...
Here, sir.
I think it would qualify as an excited utterance, present sense of pressure, if I understand the answer.
Oh, well.
Your husband came inside and he said something to you?
He did. He came inside. I was upstairs. It's a two-bedroom home. He came in the door. I could hear the door shut. And he said, Jessica, there's a body outside. And I said,
What did you do in reaction to him saying that?
yes. I said something like, oh my God, what do you mean? And he said, there's a body outside. And I said, we need to call 911.
And did you ultimately call 911?
I did, yes.
And have you had an opportunity to review an audio recording of the call that you placed previously?
I have, yes.
And the polling was been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 6. Is it your understanding that that recording is contained on this disc that's marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 6?
That's my understanding.
And to the extent that you reviewed that recording, does that recording appear to fairly and accurately depict the actual call that you placed to 911 on October 21st, 2023?
It does, yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit Proposed Exhibit 6.
No objection.
People 6 will be admitted and may be published.
October 21, 2023, 06:24 and 52 seconds.
It's Victor 911 with the address of the emergency. It's 1368 Gilliette Place. Short-term emergency for pressure. Lafayette, in regard. Is this an apartment, flat or home? It's townhouses. Tell me that's what happened. My husband was just out walking our dog, and he told me there is a person, potentially a body, laying on the sidewalk. He attempted to measure the person, and it didn't move, and there's blood present, and the person's just laying there. Is it only your block? It's in our property. Yes, it's on the neighbor's sidewalk. So that's your neighbor address? Yes, I live across this is a little park here in the community. I live right here. And where's the blood? Let me ask Kevin, where is the blood? On the sidewalk. On the sidewalk around the body. We'll go look again as well. Okay. I want you to be safe. Okay, we will, of course. There's nobody else around. It doesn't seem. We have security here on the property. We'll call them next.
I'm going to stop at about 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And at this point in the call, had you left your home yet to observe the body firsthand?
I had not. I was still inside.
Okay. I'm going to resume the call at 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
Okay, I'll see it. I just have police requested, I just have to get EMS requested also to the location. Okay. Yep, I understand. Kevin, can I give you another number to call? Wait, can I give you another number to call? Are you with the patient now? No, we're still in our home with a coverage. We're going back out. How old is the patient look?
I'm sorry, I cannot wait. The person is laying. I cannot see their face unless I move the body. And I'll curl up in a ball, and the person's barefoot, and there's a lot of blood on the sidewalk around. It looks like there's possibly a younger woman that may be pregnant. I'm not sure.
Is it a female?
I think so, just by what I can see. She's all curled up like in the fetal position in a ball, so it's hard to see.
Okay. Is she awake?
No. And I prodded her to see if she would wake up, and no reaction.
Okay. Is she breathing?
It did not look like she looked somewhat blue.
She looked at blue?
Looked to be a little bit blue, skin color, like bluish skin color. I'll go back over there in a moment and look closer, but.
And then there's security that's the guy in the truck right here. Can you try it again?
Yeah, well, this person needs to yeah, otherwise, but.
If there's a defibrillator available, just want to get it down, tell me when you have it.
Okay, no, forget that.
Yes, and I'm not sure if I was correct. We do not have a defibrillator. Okay, that's fine. That's good. I'm sitting here ready to help you now. Stand on line, I'll tell you exactly what to do. Are you outside yet with that? We're calling back outside. Kevin, can you speak that number? I have a copy. 313-656-2172. Okay, now we're walking out the press walk. Okay.
Hi, good morning. Resident here.
Good morning. Hello. Good morning.
Resident of
Oh, ma'am, she's not. Good morning. Hello. And then she's not moving. There's what a hand. Okay, please.
Just stop at 6 minutes and 2 seconds. At this point in the call, where are you?
So our home is across the park, as I described in the call. We walked across the park and we were approaching the person, the body.
Okay. And when you first approached the body, were you able to recognize who it was?
I cannot know. We came from, her back was to us. The person's back was to us.
Okay. At some point later on that day, though, were you able to recognize who the body was?
I was. As Kevin and I were standing there, I walked around to the other side and I noticed two things about the person that suggested to me I knew who it was. The first was she was wearing a jacket that had a logo on the back. It was Maccabees Basketball, a Jewish organization. And then what really suggested to me I knew who it might be was a hair clip in the person's hair that I did notice.
And who did you recognize it to be based on those items that you observed?
Yeah, I thought that it was my neighbor, Sam Wall.
And how well did you know Mrs. Mull?
So I faced her building, so certainly see her coming and going from her home. Sam's lived there maybe 3 years. I'd actually talked to her about joining the board of our organization. It's a co-op, so we work together to run the community. I'm the president, so I talked to her about that. So I would say I knew her well as a neighbor.
And which particular unit did she live in?
Would you like me to say the address?
Yes.
Yes, it was 1366 Joliet Place.
And where did you observe her body?
On the sidewalk approaching 1368 Joliet Place.
Okay. And what's the positioning between 1368 Joliet and 1366 Joliet?
Yeah. So the units all share one building. They're all townhouses, so they have front doors that face the sidewalk. 1368 is to the south of her unit, 1366. There's another unit, 1370 and 1368. They share a walkway. There's a landscape area. So to move from 1366 to 68, you would come out the sidewalk of 66, walk south along the shared sidewalk, and then walk back up the shared sidewalk between 1368 and 1370. So they were neighbor units, but they did not share a sidewalk.
Okay. And I have a couple of images that I want to walk through with you. How long have you lived in this neighborhood, first of all?
About 8 or 9 years.
And based on your experiences there, do you have some familiarity with the area and the surrounding area?
I do.
I'm holding what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 3. May I approach her? Yeah. Handing you what's been marked as Proposed Exhibit 3. Is that just a drawing that gives sort of a general overview of the area surrounding your home and Ms. Wool's home?
It is, it does.
And would you say that fairly and accurately depicts that area?
It is accurate, yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit Proposed Exhibit 3.
No objection.
People's free, admitted, may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. So if we look at Exhibit 3, can you explain to the jury where Ms. Wool's home would be depicted on this image?
Yeah, so it's marked as 1366, and that is correct. That's the building and where her unit would be.
Okay, and where would your building be located in this image?
So my building is the vertical rectangle behind the tag 1366. So it's over here,
Directly to the right of it?
directly to the right. Yes,
Okay.
it backs to Chrysler School.
And what is between the two buildings?
There's two things. The park, which I described, is the south half of what's between those units. It's a grassy area, one big tree, a little playground, and then the other half is a shared parking lot.
And do you see the box that is marked Chrysler School?
I see it.
Exhibit?
Mhm.
What does that represent?
That's an elementary school, and there's a shared path that goes from Lafayette behind our buildings up into Lafayette Park. It's an elementary school.
And did I ask you to review a video that shows some of the surrounding area that we see here on Exhibit 3?
Yes, you did.
And does that video fairly and accurately depict what that area looks like in general?
It does.
And does that show us the area sort of starting by near the school, going all the way into the walkway right in front of Ms. Wool's building?
It does, yes.
And to the extent that you reviewed that video, would you say that that fairly and accurately depicts what that area looks like now?
It is. It's what it looks like.
And I'm holding what's been marked as proposed exhibit 2. Is it your understanding that that video is on this disc that's marked as proposed exhibit 2?
That's my understanding.
Your Honor, I move to admit proposed exhibit 2.
No objection.
Equals 2 will be admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
You may.
And just looking at the image right now at the very beginning of the video for exhibit 2, where would this be reflected on this particular map? What sort of area would we be looking at on this particular map? On exhibit 3.
So it's approximately where your mouse is. What you're seeing in the start of that video is the end of Joliet Street,
And so
facing
would
Boulevard.
that be this area right here?
That's the cars that you see. Yes, the video is kind of taken back from the sidewalk, but that's what you see in the start. Yes.
I'm going to continue publishing exhibit 2. It's not, we're at 48 seconds in the video. Go back to exhibit 3 just to kind of reorient ourselves. At that point in the video, on exhibit 2, where would that be reflected in exhibit 3?
Your Honor, I think he's kind of leading the witness with his mouse. He's hovering over the area where obviously he wants her to indicate that this particular video is to be repeated. He did that
Do you have a
earlier.
pointer or something that she can point out?
I don't have a pointer, Your Honor.
May I stand?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, if perhaps you could stand.
You may not be tall enough over there, but you can step down and go. I see you can point to it. The screen doesn't look at it. I see step down. So.
So in the video, what you see, you're right here. There's street parking right here, and that's the cars that you see here. It's right here.
Okay. And is there an additional parking area in addition to the street parking?
So there's street parking along Joliet. There's street parking here. There's street parking here. This is private parking for our community. There's actually a gate on.
And I'm going to resume the video, exhibit 2, at 48 seconds. Stop at minute 20 seconds. And again, just to orient ourselves looking at back at exhibit 3, can you sort of explain sort of the general route that we were just looking at that was being traversed in the video?
So again, the video started here. We walked this way, and we're now walking down this sidewalk right here, and the cars that you started to see are right there.
And resuming the video in a minute and 20 seconds. And so stopping the video at 1 minute and 49 seconds, what are we looking at here at this particular moment?
Right. So now you're seeing the shared sidewalk with Unit 1366 Sam's units facing into the building.
Okay, so I just want to point out that you see this screenshot, right, of this video. They're trying to say that she left her door open, okay? They're trying to say that because she left her door open, that this gave Michael Jackson Bolanos the opportunity to go into her home and pokey 8 times and leave. Now, I just want to point out that if you can see in this video that this is the screen/glass door that was not open. This door was closed. Her front door that is behind this door was showing open. according to the ADT alarm system.
Recognition to unlock the
So,
device.
if you're looking at from the street and it's dark, you guys, you got to look at this in the dark. You can't see this in the dark. How would anyone know that her front door was wide open if it were wide open? You wouldn't know that because it's dark. And as Kevin Mull said, he didn't see any blood. It was dark. But yet when he gets on the 911 call, all of a sudden there's blood. I don't understand. Their stories don't match. What he said on the stand was he couldn't see any blood. It was rainy and misty also. That's very important. It was rainy and misty that morning. So he couldn't see any blood. Again, the dog. I'm just curious about the dog. Like, if there's no blood or you can't see any blood, where's the dog? And you can't tell her front door would be open. Can you see? Even in the daylight, you can't tell if her door is open or closed. So how would anyone know that her door is open in the middle of the night? That doesn't make any sense. I don't see how it's a crime of
Resuming in a
opportunity.
minute, 49 seconds on exhibit 2. And stopping at a minute and 59 seconds on exhibit 2. Now, at this point in time on the video, are you able to see the area where her body, where you observed her body?
I would say it's very close. The area of the body was here on this sidewalk.
Okay.
Perhaps a little bit closer down here, but generally in this area, yes.
And resuming the video at 1 minute and 59 seconds. And stopping the video at 2 minutes and 37 seconds. And now, in this time frame, are you able to see more clearly where you observed your body?
I would say yes. I assume the body was right here at where the intersection of the sidewalk and the main sidewalk and the sidewalk to the units is. So right here.
Okay, thank you. If you can have a seat again, I think we'll. I'm also holding what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 1. May I approach the witness, sir?
You may.
And I'm handing you Proposed Exhibit 1. What is Proposed Exhibit 1?
It's a series of aerial maps, photographs of my neighborhood.
And do those maps appear to fairly and accurately reflect your neighborhood and the surrounding area?
Yes, they do.
And how many images are there?
There are 4.
And are those all just at different sort of points of zooming in or zooming out?
So they start with a very high overview and then zoom in closer to the property, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I would move to admit Proposed Exhibit 1.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I publish? Okay, and starting with page 1 of Exhibit 1, just to orient us, and you might need to get back up for this, I'm sorry. Could you point to where your community is reflected in that image?
Sure. The first one is easy. It's the green area with all the trees. I can point it.
Yeah, perhaps you can point to it directly. Thank you.
So our neighborhood is this area here.
Okay, and where is downtown relative to that neighborhood?
Here, this is Campus Martius. The sports stadiums are easy to identify. So downtown is here.
Okay, and how about Midtown? Are you able to see any portion of Midtown on that?
Yes, of course. So this is Woodward here, and this is Little Caesars up here. And so Midtown starts when you cross the freeway. So up into this section, Brush Park, and then Midtown up here.
Okay, and moving to the second page of Exhibit 1, again, just to orient ourselves, can you point to where, are you able to see your specific building in this image or the area of your specific building?
Yes, so the Chrysler Elementary School is here. And then my building is this one here. And then you see the tree canopy, and then this is the building across the way.
Okay, moving to the third page of Exhibit 1, can you, I guess, point to, do you see Samantha Wool's building in this image?
I do. So it's here. You can actually see the rooftop through the trees. Again, my home is here. Chrysler Elementary is up there.
Okay, and then moving to the final page, just does that just bring us a little bit closer in?
It's closer. That's the building, yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You can have a seat, thanks.
Okay, well, I'm just is she Google Maps or something? Like, she's a freaking neighbor. Okay. She is a freaking neighbor who didn't even find Samantha. Her husband or partner, whatever you want to call him, found Samantha. She is the president of the freaking co-op. She has access to many of the cameras, which I'm sure cops could get by search warrant, but she has easier, faster access to a lot of cameras around the neighborhood, which is the reason why I think she was on the stand longer than her husband. And the reason why I think they were asking her these questions about Google Maps and whatnot, because she's not a freaking expert witness. So I don't know why she was allowed this much leeway and why the prosecution was given this much leeway in her being able to identify from the sky view of where her location was. I don't think that should have been allowed. She's a layperson. She's a freaking neighbor, for God's sake. I get it. I'm sure any of us can pick our house out on a map if it's shown to us, but this is more of like, you should have someone who is able to testify as a better witness than a freaking neighbor, is all I'm saying.
Now, after you observed the body, did you make any efforts to try to figure out whether anyone else was home in the units adjoining to Miss Mull?
I did. I attempted to contact multiple neighbors in that building.
Okay, and based on the efforts that you made, were you able to determine whether anybody was home in the units directly next to hers?
They were not home.
Okay. And throughout the night on October 21st, 2023, did you hear or see anything? Throughout the night of October 20th of 2023, leading into the early morning hours of October 21st, 2023, did you see or hear anything out of the ordinary that caught your attention at all?
The night before, no, I did not.
And after you called 911, did you happen to see whether your husband at all had any sort of blood on him, on his clothing that day?
He did not have any blood on him.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. No further questions.
Good morning.
Morning.
Now, you were inside the house when you were first notified by your husband of a potential body on the sidewalk?
I was in the house, yes.
Okay. Your husband never instructed you to call 911, correct?
No, I said we need to call 911.
Okay. So it was your choice to call 911, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you called 911, you did not immediately go outside to observe the scene, correct?
I had just woken up. I was not dressed to go outside.
No,
So as
yeah.
fast as I could, I got dressed and went outside.
And you were on the phone with 911, and they were asking you questions and giving you directions. One of the directions was to provide CPR, correct?
That's correct.
And you refused to give CPR, correct?
That's correct.
And one of the reasons why you refused to give CPR because you felt that the person was too far gone, was already dead, correct?
That's correct.
And you didn't check for any pulse or anything, correct?
I did not.
Okay. And the reason why you didn't check for a pulse is you felt that the person was already dead, correct?
The reason I did not check for the pulse is I had been out to the person at that point, and it was clear it was a dead body.
Okay, so that'd be a yes, correct? Okay.
Yes.
And it was your understanding that your husband had touched the body, correct?
He told me he had, yes.
Did you know at that point in time where he had touched the body?
I believe he said he had touched her on her back.
You believe it? Are you sure, or are you just speculating right now?
I recall he told me he touched her on her back.
Okay. Did you ask him if he had checked for a pulse?
I did not.
Now, when you walked around the body, did you like lean over the body to see her face, or how were you able to ascertain that it was who you thought it was?
So I walked around the body. Again, when I got to her back was to us. I walked around the side of her head. So my back was to the unit facing now her face. And I could see her face, but not entirely well. So it was not her face that I recognized first. It was the other items I described.
Okay, and you said you recognized a hair clip?
A hair clip.
And did you recognize that from approaching from the rear, or did you have to walk around before you noticed that?
I don't recall when I noticed it.
Would the hair clip would it have been in the back of her hair?
Yeah, it was in the back of her hair.
And it'd be fair that you approached her from the back, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And when you walked around the front of her, you were looking at the front of her, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And the lettering on the jacket, would that been on the rear of her jacket or the front of her jacket?
It was on the back, on the back side of her jacket.
Okay. So it'd be fair that you noticed this lettering on the back of her jacket when you approached from the rear, correct?
I would say what I noticed when I approached from the rear was the body. And as I walked around to the front, she was curled up. You could still see her back, wall facing from the front of her.
You would agree that there is a line of bushes that connects the joint sidewalk of apartment 1364 and 1366 to the joint sidewalk of 1368 and 1370.
There's a row of shrubbery there, yes.
Okay. And when the prosecution asked whether or not you were able to see where the body was from the vantage point of 1366, that joint sidewalk, you would agree that the shrubbery would have clouded your image or obstructed your image from seeing where the body was, right?
No, I said from that particular picture, I would say you could see the body. Not all of it, but you could see it from that sidewalk.
Okay. And you did indicate that the body would have been somewhat, I guess, shielded, for lack of a better word, by the shrubbery from that particular image that was showed to you, correct?
Where I saw the body was from a different direction.
Okay, but my question is when the prosecution showed you that video and paused it at the joint sidewalk of 1366 and 1364 and indicated where the body was from that vantage point, you would agree that the shrubbery would have obstructed your vision from that particular vantage point where the body
I would not agree with obstructed. I would have said it would be part of the field of view, but you would have been able to see the body.
You said it would have parted.
It would have been part of the field of view. You would see the shrubbery and the body. What's important about this picture is this is a summer picture.
Okay, thank you. And you had ring camera on your particular house?
We do.
Okay, and your buildings face each other?
They do.
Okay. Does your ring camera face her unit?
It does not.
It does not. Okay. And you indicated that you're the president of
The president of the co-op. The home is a co-op
the co-op.
association.
Okay. And as the president of the co-op, are you one of your, I guess, duties is to provide maybe surveillance cameras for the different units?
It's not one of our duties, no.
Okay. Is it, can you request surveillance cameras?
No.
Okay. Have you ever requested surveillance cameras as the president of the co-op?
For my home or for the community?
For the community, for each individual building to have its own surveillance camera?
Not prior to this event, no.
Not prior? Okay. Do you know whether or not these buildings were equipped with any type of surveillance?
I do know that, yes.
Were they?
Some were.
Okay. Do you know whether or not Ms. Wall's building had surveillance?
I do not know.
You do not? Did you ever inquire as the president of the co-op?
No, we're each our own homeowners.
Okay. Do sometimes different co-ops, is it one co-op per building or is it one co-op for the whole complex?
Our co-op is 5 buildings. There are 4 co-ops in that neighborhood.
Okay. Does her building exist inside your co-op?
It does, yes.
Okay. And you stated that you knew Samantha fairly well?
I would say as a neighbor, I knew her, yes.
Okay. Have you ever seen her with anybody else going and coming from her apartment?
I see all of our neighbors coming and going.
My question is, did you specifically see Samantha coming and going from her apartment with anybody else?
In what time period?
Months preceding, maybe within the 6 months that preceded this particular incident.
I'm sorry, I don't recall.
You don't recall? Okay. Have you ever seen her with like maybe a male coming and going to her apartment?
I don't recall a male or a female, but I have seen Samantha walking in the neighborhood with people, yes.
Okay. And you knew her approximately 3 years?
I would say that's about right, yes.
Okay. Did you ever have casual conversations with her?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know she was dating somebody?
I don't know that.
Okay. That conversation never came up?
It did not.
Has she ever introduced you to anybody?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Nothing more. Thank you.
Questions from the jury? Write down, please. Council approach. Could you see if Samantha's door was open that morning?
I could see that, yes.
If the door was open?
I could see it and it was open.
Any further questions based on that?
Yes. Okay. And just to be clear, you were able to see that her door was open when you approached the body and you walked to her door?
No, that's not correct. So we approached the body. As I described, it became clear that it was Samantha, which didn't make sense because that was not her home she was laying in front of. We noticed drops of blood on the shared sidewalk leading back to her unit.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off, but just to be clear, where were you at when you noticed her door was open?
I'm describing that for you. We followed the trail of drops of blood back the sidewalk and toward her unit. And it was when we were standing in front of her unit, we noticed the door was open.
Thank you. To be clear, you did not notice when you walked out of your own unit that her door was open, correct?
That was not my focus at that time. No.
Okay, thank you.
Any follow-up?
No, you're right.
Any further questions from the jury? Thank you. Can we step down?
Thank you.
Come back on. Please take your yourself.
Okay, so what we have to say about these nosy, not so nosy neighbors. Now let's go back to Kevin Mull, the spouse. He said it was rainy and misty. It was about 6:20 in the morning. He's walking a dog. We don't know what kind of dog. He says he didn't get any blood on him, yet he's not the one who called 911. The wife was. What was the husband doing while the wife is on the phone? She was not dressed. That's why she didn't go outside right away. So how is it that she was able to call 911 and get dressed, but the husband wasn't able to call 911? So what was the husband doing if he did not get blood on him? Also, he said it was dark. He couldn't see anything. He didn't see any blood. Yet then on the phone on 911, he's saying there's a trail of blood, that it's bloody, and it's bloody around her. So he also says that she was bluish. Then the wife says that she didn't see any blood on her husband, but she said she noticed there was blood outside and it was dark. And she says that she now, get this, had to walk around Samantha's head to identify her. That's how she knew. Now, remember, this is a very, very bloody crime scene. Very bloody, right? You've heard it from the first officer who arrived. You've heard it from the crime scene technician. You have heard it from the prosecutor. You've heard it from everyone, right? Blood everywhere. There's a trail of blood leading from where Samantha is lying all the way to her front door. And now you hear that this neighbor, the co-op president, literally walks around Samantha's body. How did she not step in any blood? That's a missed opportunity for Brian Brown. Where is her footsteps at? Did she step in any blood? She also says that she canvassed basically the neighborhood, went across to other townhomes to see if any of the neighbors were home. That sidewalk between Samantha's townhome and the next door townhome, they share. Now, if the neighbor had to go over to the townhouse, she had to walk on that sidewalk. So people are walking on the sidewalk where there's this blood trail. It's contaminated. This is a contaminated crime scene. You have the neighbors walking through the blood. You have this dog walking through the blood. You have people walking through the blood that they supposedly can't see because it's dark. So it's also rainy and misty out. So what is going on there? So this is telling me that people have walked through the scene, at least part of the scene. So they are asked to give life-saving measures to Samantha, and they refuse. They refuse to even check her pulse. They refuse to do anything to help Samantha because they say she's done. She's beyond help. How do they know that? They didn't check a pulse. They didn't do anything. They're saying she's bluish. There must be some other reason why they didn't check her or offer to give CPR. So I'm finding that there was no sense of urgency on their part. I'm finding that there has to be more of a reason than, oh, she's just done. There has to be something else that says that this person is beyond help. So that's why I'm curious as to how long she had to have been laying out there. Because if Kevin can see that she's bluish, yet it's dark outside, and he didn't see all the blood on the ground, but then all of a sudden he did see all the blood on the ground, but he didn't get any blood on him. The wife is walking all around Samantha's body and not seeing any blood, but then yet she does see blood that leads all the way back to her townhouse door. And then she's going to the other townhouses. So that means she's walking through this blood, or she's at least near it. I mean, there has to be this is all wrong. So I'm just curious how neither of these neighbors got blood on them or their dog got blood on them. I think it's a missed opportunity for the defense that they didn't ask. I think it is a missed opportunity that the officer in charge did not question even more. I think that since the neighbors had a Ring camera, that they should have at least taken whatever was on their Ring camera. If they didn't, there's no evidence that they did. But that, I mean, at least you would have Kevin Mull coming home with the dog on the Ring camera, right? You would have him showing something. I mean, there's a lot of holes. Okay, there's a lot of things that were not done. So I would have wanted to see the Ring camera footage from the neighbor coming back after finding Samantha's body. and asking questions. I would want to know, again, what kind of freaking dog. This dog is driving me nuts. I would want to know if Miss Jessica there was going to the neighbors' other townhouses. How many times did she walk by Samantha's body? How many times did she walk up and down the sidewalk? How many times, how close were they to Samantha until police got there? And obviously they were there after, because we heard from the first officer in charge, or the officer that got there responded that they were still there. So, and this was going on until well after 8 a.m. That Samantha was lying on the ground with a sheet over her. So there's a lot of missed opportunities for the defense on these two people here. And I think that is because I would have been like, how did you see blood if it was dark outside? You just said it was dark and you couldn't see anything. So how could you tell she was blue? How did you see that she, what made you think that she was absolutely beyond help, that you couldn't offer CPR? I mean, what about her laying there made you think she was beyond help, that you couldn't offer any life-saving measures whatsoever? What kind of dog did you have? Was it a big dog, little dog, hairy dog, hairless dog? I mean, I got questions. How many times did you walk around her body before you figured out who she was? How many times did you go to the other townhomes to see if anybody was there? How many times would you say you walked up and down the sidewalk? Where were you on the sidewalk? Where were you when the police got there? What part of the sidewalk did you touch? I want to know. I want to know. And I think that the jury should have probably had these questions if the defense or the prosecution didn't have these questions. So that's just me. But that is all I have for that. That's the nosy neighbors, not so nosy neighbors. And who needs neighbors like that aren't going to try to save your life? I mean, I don't give a crap unless you're just like decayed beyond, unless you're just like, you got like stuff happening. I mean, you got to help. You got to try. I mean, unless you're just like not able to, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't have to go into it, but I mean, come on, man. Come on. I mean, what the heck? So anyway, I appreciate y'all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to tell all your friends, all your neighbors, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, everybody, your dogs, your cats, everybody, really people with opposable thumbs, and just tell everybody that you know about the alternate point of view. Please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget, you can buy me a coffee or buy some merch. I am not monetized, so I would love it if you would do that. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you all. And I will see you in the next video. 감사합니다.